Hello everyone, Silent here and welcome back to another Bedrock Edition video. Today we're going to be talking about something a little bit different than I normally do. So recently you may have seen this kind of system circling around on the interwebs. Mumbo Jumbo has popularized using the tier scoring board to compare every single farm in Minecraft to see which one is the funnest to build, which one's the most interesting, or which ones are the most useful in general. So that's what we're going to be doing today as well. I really like this idea. It's always fun to hear other people's opinions on why something is better than something else, or why something is terrible, or why you shouldn't ever build a flower farm, or just, general stuff like that. But this video is going to be a little bit different than the other tiering videos that you may have seen, because today we're going to be specifically talking about the Bedrock Edition. Now, as some of you guys know, the Bedrock Edition is extremely different from Java Edition. So some farms, like creeper-only farms, just don't work on this platform. Some farms are really terrible on this platform, while others are super good. So we're going to be taking all of that into account when we actually tier things on the tier board over here. To help us keep stuff straight, we're going to add a little bit of a horizontal bit to the top of this thing. So everything on the left side is going to be stuff that is perfectly fine to build on the Bedrock Edition, and then everything on the right side is going to be stuff that has issues, or is slightly broken, or just isn't as good as it should be, or isn't as good as Java Edition. So there's going to be a few things on the right that we would really like to build, and then everything on the left is going to be kind of normal stuff that you can totally build in your world without any issues. And one more thing before we begin, this is of course just a fun and silly little thing to do. My opinions are not objective fact. If you think I made a mistake with, ranking something or forgot a farm, then of course let me know with a comment down below in a nice way. I think this is a pretty fun concept, and I'd love to hear what you guys think when it comes to ranking the different farms in this game. So let's start off by ranking some of the crops, of course, because most of these are going to be pretty straightforward. Wood, of course, is going to be in the A category. Not too many different tree farms on the Bedrock Edition, but it's basically wood. It's the first thing that you actually start out farming in this game. It deserves to be higher up. From there, we're going to go ahead and put all of cactus, netherwort, and sugarcane into the E category, just because they all grow extremely slowly. None of these have too many uses. You're mostly going to be using your sugarcane for rockets. This is going to be mostly for potions, and why are you even farming it? And then from there, I'm actually going to go ahead and put kelp in the B category, just because it's an excellent fuel source, interesting to farm, and also great for furnace experience as well. We have a lot of things for the Z category now, so chorus farms are not that useful for per. There's no automated farms for them on Bedrock at the moment. Everything is manual. Wheat farms, really overdone, really old school, pretty much only useful for actual breeding of animals now. Double tall flower farms, super boring and very easy. And then cocoa farms, they're just a hassle, they're boring, and they're not too useful. Sea pickles are going to be going up here in the C category because sea pickles, and also they smelt down into lime dye, and they're also very useful for spawn proofing your oceans against the hordes of drowns. So that's going to be going up there. I'm going to put flower farms in C as well, just because having one of these really opens up your possibilities for having all kinds of different dyes and building materials. Pretty useful. There's a lot of different ways to farm these as well. And then we're going to go ahead and put the bamboo up here in category B as well, simply because this is just an instant fuel source. You don't need to do anything. Pretty fun to farm as well. With a flying machine, you get so much of it per hour. Some more plants for the category Z. Of course, mushroom farms. They can be good for the actual mushroom blocks if you want to do some building, but automating that is an extreme hassle on the Bedrock Edition. Overall, not that great. Vine farms, super slow, like just the slowest thing in the world. They grow so slowly. However, they are very good for mossy cobble, so they'll move up there real quick. And then other than that, sweet berry farms, very boring. All you need is a bone meal dispenser. So now we have the last of the crops, of course, and I'm going to go ahead and say that the melons and pumpkins are really overdone, but they're also pretty fun to farm with like a flying machine. They're not the most useful nowadays. However, I do think that they do belong in the category C because they're good for villager trades. They're just a good staple farm in general. Maybe we'll move down melons, but melon and pumpkins are basically tied together. If you're farming one, you may as well farm the other as well. Coral fan farms are actually going to come in as a C, and not because they are complex or useful, but mostly because they are fun. Using a little bit of a bug, you can actually get these things out of water, which makes for some really interesting builds. So that is every single plant farm completely ranked now. Now we're going to move into the passive animal farms, starting off with a C for the turtle farms, just because the turtle master potions are really useful and really fun for pranking people as well. Automatic chicken farms are of course going to be a B, of course, great for early game, fully automated, and they're just wonderful in general. However, the rest of the animal farms are going to be going down here in the E category. These things are pretty manual, they're not that great, and this includes all cow, sheep, pig, and rabbit farms. Honestly, just not the greatest, not a big fan of them. The Village and Pillage update made wool farms way more efficient and fully automated as well, so now wool is much easier to acquire, definitely a B rank. They're a lot less interesting now, but I guess you give and take a little bit. So we have a couple more things for the B category as well, such as ink farms. These things are utterly massive and grindy. However, they also provide you with a ton of fish and a load of bones as well. So they're a pretty great all around farm. You can use the bone meal for all of the other crops, of course. And then we also are going to put this over here too, because they're a lot less interesting and a lot less intricate than the Java farms. So we're kind of missing out on that front. We're missing a lot of mechanics that make the Java farms interesting. We're also going to go ahead and put the all passive mob farm over here as well, because this just isn't a thing on Bedrock Edition. You would need literally a full perimeter, and yeah, it's just not really a thing that we have. So there's no need to even discuss this one. We all know that Pie is the absolute best item in the entire game, so that's going to be our first ever legendary farm. So that is all of our passive mob farms ranked. Let's move on to ranking all of the extra builds that we have over here, starting off with iron. Of course, iron is like a main staple of this game if you want to do anything technical or just really anything in general. Iron, of course, would typically be a legendary thing, but even in 1.14, that would move down to about here because they're just not that productive. But I'm going to put it up over there anyway, just because it's honorary. However, on the Bedrock Edition, like this stuff, it just like, it deserves to go like, you know, down about here, and maybe even a little bit further, down to about there, just because our iron farms currently produce about half a stack per hour, and our mechanics are totally garbage. Record farms, while not that useful, are pretty interesting and fun builds, and I haven't really seen anyone do that on Bedrock Edition, so I'm going to rank that one as a C. Again, not very useful, but you gotta admit, listening to a record every now and again or with some friends is pretty fun. And now we're getting another legendary farm in the form of gold farms. So zombie pigman farms. The only downfall to gold farms on the Bedrock Edition is that you have to use nether portals. Now that is not too big of a deal because that's actually super useful. Gold farms on this platform will always function, and no matter if your mob cap is full or what is going on, you can count on a gold farm to always work for you. There's basically nothing that's going to break it. It's a great source of experience. It's basically the best source of experience because they're infinitely expandable. You just need to add more portals, and overall you get a bunch of gold, you get a bunch of experience, you can trade the rotten flesh if you feel like wasting some time, and it's just pretty awesome. Now, ice farms are actually kind of an interesting one. There's a lot that you can do with ice now. You can craft it into packed ice and then into blue ice, and there's a ton of different ways to farm these things with flying machines or what have you, and they're actually pretty efficient on the Bedrock Edition as well. So I kind of want to say that they should be like a B farm. You can use them for all kinds of water streams and just fun things in general. Setting aside any debates, you have to agree that AFK fish farms are pretty amazing for early game and late game use as well. Like, they give you the food that you need early game, and they give you all the enchantments that you can possibly need to get on your feet. Overall, pretty awesome. And these are also some of like my most popular tutorials, so I kind of have to rank it kind of high. I'm forced to, you guys have pushed me. To no one's surprise, I'm also going to be ranking villager tech pretty high as well. Villager crop farms, breeders, trading halls, and just all of that stuff in general, all pretty awesome. The Village and Pillage update did kind of ruin everything, but I mean, hopefully they'll fix some of it. The last of our random farms is obsidian, and now this is something that we can't really currently farm because we don't have any form of wither cage, but if we had a way to safely contain the wither, then we would actually be able to farm this stuff, and that would be pretty amazing. Obsidian is a great resource to have. So now we're getting into the juicy farms of this video, and there's actually going to be some pretty interesting rankings going on here. So the first one is going to be a silverfish farm. I've never actually needed to build a silverfish farm and never seen anyone build one, but they could be extremely interesting by getting all the guys into the blocks if only they were actually useful and dropped something. Creeper only farms in general aren't that useful on the Java edition, however, they would be legendary on the Bedrock edition if they actually worked. Currently they should work, but there's a lot of bugs. I'll leave a link to the bug report down below so you can upvote it, and hopefully we'll actually get these things fully functional in a future update. When it comes to just a basic zombie spawner, honestly these things are not super useful. However, they do still supply you with zombie villagers on the Bedrock edition, which is a pretty useful thing. Pretty sure that's actually a bug, don't tell anyone. But yeah, if you need villagers and you don't have a village, this is definitely the way to go. Now, if you find yourself a skeleton spawner, that'll be a different story. These things are much better as bone meal is needed for so many different things on this platform, such as sugarcane and, pickles and flower farms, bamboo and kelp. All of those things are bone mealable. So this one's really going to surprise you as well, but with the skeleton farms are going to be going into the B category, and this is fortress farms specifically, so ones that use the nether fortress. These things are honestly pretty terrible. The spawn spots are randomized. There's only a select few spots where they spawn. Very slow. You need a full perimeter. Not very much flexibility when it comes to designs. Typically, these would of course be a legendary farm, so that's going to be going over on that side as well. Enderman farms are typically really amazing on the Java edition. However, they are not that great on the Bedrock edition. And currently there's actually no good designs for the Village and Pillage update because they changed some things. So at this point in time, these things are going to be going down here at E. So if you find yourself a zombie spawner and then turn that into a drowned farm, you'll actually get yourself a trident farm, which is pretty alright. These things drop way too frequently. They shouldn't drop from spawner zombies. Totally a bug. However, they're very useful for trident killers, basically fully AFK ways of getting looting and experience from just hooking up a trident to like a piston to automatically kill mobs. It's amazing, very useful, and that's why it gets ranked so high. Slime farms are generally very useful for all kinds of technical builds, really interesting as well, a lot of flexibility in the designs. Albeit rare, when you do find yourself a double blaze spawner, these things are pretty wonderful for fuel and great for experience as well, especially when coupled with a trident killer. Now, gas farms, I'm not even sure are really even possible on the Bedrock edition. We don't have the nether roof, and it would be very, very convoluted to actually build one of these things. However, it would be really awesome, and like if you could build one, it would be right up there at the top just for a fun and interesting project. I'm slowly realizing just how many mobs there are in this game, and each one of these needs a little explanation for why I'm ranking them. I'm slowly becoming very, very invested in this ranking system. Like, I'm spending way too much time thinking about it. Anyway, we have phantom membranes. Now, I haven't seen a phantom farm for Bedrock, but these things would be pretty interesting to farm, pretty fun. I think I'll put them up here in C actually. When you do need phantom membranes, you typically need a lot of them for NCD rating. Slow falling potions are very good to have. Typically on Java edition, witch farms would be an absolute legendary just because of the sheer amount of drops that you get from them. They are really amazing. But when it comes to Bedrock edition, you have to do so much more work for so little payoff. It's really ridiculous how few drops you actually get from a witch farm. Only 3 more farms to rank now, and we're going to be putting the Guardian farm into the legendary category. Just on its own, this is the best source of experience in the game unless you want to really go massive with a gold farm, and they're really easy and fun projects as well. Would highly recommend building a Guardian farm. After that, we have ourselves the raid farms. These things are honestly really amazing on the Bedrock edition. They drop a ton of iron armor that you can smelt down into iron nuggets. They also drop enchanted books, emeralds, so many emeralds, and of course the totems of undying. If you don't have yourself a raid farm, build one. They are wonderful. So you know what they say, leave the best one for last, and that is what we have done in today's video. There is one more farm that we haven't talked about, and that is stray farms. You might be wondering, well, stray farms are pretty useless, but this is Bedrock Edition. Useless is useful, so stray farms can actually be turned into beacon factories because these guys drop wither skeleton skulls when blown up by a charged creeper. So using a stray farm, you can get up to 33 wither skulls per minute. Yeah, absolutely insane, and that's why the actual fortress farms are quite a bit lower. These things, seriously amazing. The second best farm in the entire game, actually, right behind the pumpkin pie farm. So after spending way more time on this than I thought I would and getting way more invested in this, I have gone around and rearranged a few things and made this thing a little bit cleaner. And honestly, this is pretty fun. I would suggest you try this out in your own world because this is kind of a fun little challenge to, think about all the pros and cons. But now that this thing is fully cleaned up, let's go ahead and run through all the different farms. So at the legendary status, we have Pumpkin Pie, Gold, Guardian, Raid, and Beacon Factories. Everyone knows that these are the absolute cream of the crop of your Bedrock Edition farms, the best you will ever get. From there, we got like wood farms and villager tech. Below that, we got our bamboo and kelp farms, and then our wool and ink farms, fortress farms, stuff like that. You could argue some of these will be moved around, but I think that they have enough pros and cons to deserve this rating. Down from here, these things are mildly more useful than you might think, so they deserve this rating, I think, especially the sea pickles and like the the witch farm and stuff. Moving down from there, the only reason why none of these are in the Z category is because they are somewhat useful sometimes, and you'll probably build at least a little bit of one of these in your worlds, or they're just potentially fun. And then all of the bottom category is just utterly useless. Why would you ever build any of this unless you're completely bored? And don't forget about iron farms all the way down there at the bottom. They totally deserve that ranking. And then of course there is the right side of this board, all of the Java tech that just completely blows all of the Bedrock tech out of the water by like a mile and straight into a volcano. Like Bedrock has nothing compared to what Java has compared to all of these farms. They honestly have some amazing tech over there. If you haven't seen what the Java players have done with these farms, check it out. It's honestly mind-blowing. Bedrock has nothing like that. It would be really nice if we had all of this. But that is about going to do it for this video. I hope you all did enjoy. If you have any changes or suggestions or just comments in general about this entire, board or system or idea, then of course let me know with a comment down below. I'll be trying to hang out with you guys down there as much as I possibly can and replying and reading comments and all that good stuff. But if you did enjoy this video, leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys down in the comments. Thank you very much for the support. And then there was silence.